Bangladesh's descent into chaos is our top focus on IndiaFirst. There was bloodshed, brutality, barbarism. That's what defines the state of India's neighbor. The death of an anti-Sheikh Hasina, an anti-India face, Sharif Usman Hadi, has become the perfect excuse for Islamic radicals to unleash violence, not just in Dhaka, but virtually across Bangladesh. Radical Islamists now rule the streets in Bangladesh. Historic landmarks have been destroyed. Properties linked to the Awami League, to Bangbandhu, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, systematically targeted. Streets are burning with rioters. The press has been beaten into submission. The question that this leads to is, what is the unelected Professor Muhammad Yunus's government doing? Looking the other way, giving a free hand to the rioters, to the radical Islamists, and why? With an eye on elections in February. We get you more in this report.
Violence, vandalism, arson, and lynching. Bangladesh is on the edge of anarchy. Total chaos and unrest in India's neighborhood after death of a prominent leader, Sharif Usman Hadi, who was face of youth movement that ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Sharif Usman Hadi was shot by masked attackers while leaving a mosque in Dhaka last week and succumbed to his injuries in Singapore.
সবাইকে অবশ্যই এর প্রতিবাদে এবং এই যে হত্যাকাণ্ডের প্রতিবাদে জুলাইয়ের মতো আমাকে সবাইকে একসাথে ঐক্যবদ্ধ থেকে এই হত্যাকাণ্ডের বিচার যাতে অবশ্যই এই দেশে মাটিতে হয় সে ব্যাপারে সবাইকে ঐক্যবদ্ধ থাকতে হবে।
গুলি করা থেকে এর মদতদাতা, এর পৃষ্ঠপোষকতা, এর অর্থদাতা এবং দেশের বাহিরে যে যদি এর সাথে যারা জড়িত আছে সকলের মুখোশ উন্মোচন করে আমরা এর বিচার।
After this news became public, anger spilled on the streets. Radicals went on a rampage and it turned into an anti-India and anti-Hasina stir. Angry mob stormed Assistant High Commission of India in Chittagong and pelted stones on the building. Protesters vandalized the office of the country's largest newspaper, Daily Prathamalo, and completely destroyed offices of other media outlets.
আমার ওখানে ওই যে আমাদের ক্যামেরা, লেন্স, আনুষঙ্গিক সব কিছু মিলে প্রায় আমার একটা সাংবাদিকের ডয়ারে প্রায় ধরো না 25 থেকে 30 লাখ টাকা জিনিস থাকে। আমার সব স্মৃতি, আমার যে এত বছরের ক্যারিয়ারে যে ছবি তোলা, আমার যে 4-5টা হার্ড ড্রাইভ, তারপরে হচ্ছে আমার পাসপোর্ট,
4তলা থেকে 6তলা পর্যন্ত হচ্ছে পুরোটাই ভাঙচুর করছে, লুটতরাজ করছে, একদম একটা ড্রয়ার পর্যন্ত খালি রাখে নাই, সব চেক করে সব নিয়ে গেছে, ল্যাপটপ ভাঙছে।
The mob also vandalized and set ablaze Chhayanaut, a prominent and historic cultural organization in Bangladesh founded in 1961.
দেখানোর চেষ্টা করছি বিক্ষুব্ধ ছাত্র জনতা কিন্তু ছায়ানটে ভাঙচুরে করেছে। দর্শক আপনাদেরকে দেখানোর চেষ্টা করছি।
Tensions on the ground continue to rise as protesters are accusing Hasina of assassinating Usman Hadi and demanded her extradition. Angry mob targeted offices of Awami League and attacked homes of Hasina's aides. Radicals even lynched a Hindu man over charges of allegations of blasphemy in Bangladesh's Mymensingh. Bangladesh Chief Advisor Muhammad Yunus has condemned the incident and promised to bring the culprits to justice. But at the same time, Yunus called Sharif Osman Hadi a martyr and called his murder a bid to threaten revolutionaries, an act many see as a dog whistle to the anarchists. As situation continues to simmer in Bangladesh, Indian agencies continue to keep a close watch on what is happening in India's backyard. Bureau Report, India Today.
So Bangladesh is sliding into chaos. Analysts argue Muhammad Yunus regime-backed mobs were unleashed on newspaper officers to silence them. They were sent to target the Indian diplomatic mission and residences, and a radical Islamist mob that lynched a Hindu minority youth. They tied him to a tree and they burnt him alive. So is Professor Muhammad Yunus either unable, unwilling or openly complicit with this mob violence? Joining me on India First is Salahuddin Shoaib Chaudhry. He's a counter-terrorism specialist and the editor of The Blitz. Joins us from Bangladesh. Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarty, India's former High Commissioner to Bangladesh, with us on the show. In a moment, we would be joined by Mohammad Kamruzzaman, a journalist on Ground Zero. General Vinod Bhatia, as former Director General of Military Operations and the former Director, Center for Joint Warfare Studies. Muhammad Ali Arafat is a leader and a member of the banned Awami League in Bangladesh, currently joining us from an undisclosed location because of security reasons. But Salahuddin Shoaib Chaudhry, what's the current situation in Bangladesh right now? Why are journalists being targeted by this mob, in your view?
Thank you very much. What is happening in Bangladesh since last evening? It is a direct attack on Bengali identity. And the core value of Bengali identity is secularism. So secularism is under attack. And whatever Muhammad Yunus promises or says, we should not believe, because he has been playing this kind of a mockery for months together. In September last year, Yunus said the regime change plot in Bangladesh was meticulously designed. And I can guarantee that whatever is happening from yesterday, these are also meticulously designed plots of Pakistani ISI and Yunus himself. Because, as you know, that Yunus has promised holding election on February 12th, which he will not, because the percentage of votes in Bangladesh actually is Awami League and BNP, they share like 40, 40, 45, 45 something. And the Jamaat Islam and all other Islamists, they have only 7%. Yunus has no vote or support base at all. Yunus will never leave this position of the chief advisor. The way he fought to the last to hold the post of the chairman of the managing director of Grameen Bank. And the person who the man
that's
who
very interesting. You should point this out, sir. Let me bring in Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarty into this conversation. Ambassador, your assessment of the situation on ground, the manufactured anti-India hate in your view, and the attempts to target Indian diplomats and mission in Bangladesh. If you were to join the dots, what's the big picture that emerges, sir?
Well, we have this famous saying in English called running with the hares and hunting with the hounds. And I think Professor Yunus is doing exactly that. And I do not believe that this sudden violence was not pre-planned. I think it was very well pre-planned. And I think the regime change, as Professor Yunus had himself admitted, was meticulously planned. So I would say this is another meticulous plan in which he has allowed these mobs, these goons, and the Jamaat and other people to do this kind of destruction that you are seeing attacking. And of course, the blame immediately goes to India because whoever assassinated that young man, the leader, who was, of course, very, very anti Awami League, so he must have made enemies. So, and they are blaming India that the killers have escaped to India and India should have. And not a shred of evidence has been provided.
Exactly.
To hide their incompetence, they are playing this game. That's my view. And I think this is not going to carry on like this, because if you attack the Indian High Commission and Indian consulates in Bangladesh, there will be repercussions here. And they understand that. And that is why they have provided, and the military has also come into play in terms of providing protection. And they are obliged to provide protection because of the Vienna Conventions, of which we all are member states.
Signatories.
We've all signed
Yes.
that. And that's an international norm, which I'm afraid this government in Dhaka is unable to uphold. Now,
So let me bring in Mohammad Arafat, who joins us from an undisclosed location, Ambassador. He's an Awami League leader, and he's joining us from an undisclosed location because of a threat to lives of Awami League leaders and their families. Mr. Arafat, if you can hear me, are Awami League workers safe? What are you picking up about the violence in Bangladesh and the situation right now?
Well, the current situation is nothing different from what has been happening since August 5th, 2024. It is just, keep on unfolding. When you see the radical Islamists, they have taken over the country, and the way they have created the mob violence, and Yunus government consistently, supported that. And we saw that they attacked the Bangabandhu's residence at road number 32, and it was aired live, right? And nothing was done. Even after that incident also, no perpetrators were taken to book. So therefore, Yunus government itself basically unfolded this and allowed this to happen. And so when you see the rise of this radical Islamist group, making a safe haven for them, so naturally, these are the kind of things that's going to happen. This is not the first time. Previously, also, they attacked on some of the factories. And, more than 200 people were trapped inside and they were eventually killed. Have you heard of any action taken by the Yunus government afterwards? No. Because of that, it is happening.
Actually, none whatsoever. You're absolutely right. And General Bhatia, should India brace at the borders for a fallout, and not just at the borders? Could it have an impact deeper within?
Yes, Gaurav, definitely. This will have an impact on the borders. We'll see increased immigration from Bangladesh. We already host about 3 million people plus. And the situation is not good. And unfortunately, it is being encouraged by the dispensation, by Muhammad Yunus dispensation. I think Bangladesh people, the anti-India sentiment is a bit too much. They should realize that India has a finite strategic patience. It is not infinite. It has been going for too long. We have a finite strategic patience, as seen in Op Sindoor. We are a responsible nation. We are availing a soft power, but that doesn't mean that we are a soft state. Openly threatening the chicken's neck, openly, Mohammad Yunus planning a book to the Chief of General Staff of the Pakistan Army Armed Forces with a map of Northeast state as part of Bangladesh, saying that we'll cut off the chicken's neck. They should understand that Chittagong corridor is even more vulnerable. If we can help liberate Bangladesh in 13 days, we can cut off the the Chittagong corridor in 13 hours. They have to understand that. But we are a responsible nation. We don't want to do that. We have never done it. Wherever we have gone in the aid of the people, invested in the people, invested in the government. But that should not be taken for granted. We've got a finite sort of a strategic patience, which should not take for granted.
Okay. Salahuddin Shoaib Chaudhry, a Hindu man, was picked up by this mob of radical Islamists. They were chanting religious slogans. They stripped him. They lynched him. They hung him from a tree. Then they beat him again. And then they set him on fire. And there were hundreds who were filming it on their mobile phones. So Are we to understand there is no rule of law left in Bangladesh?
You see the incident that you were referring to about the Hindu youth who was brutally murdered last night. This is not the only incident. Since the jihadist coup of last year, dozens of Hindus have faced similar fate in the hands of jihadists, but it is not coming to the media because Bangladesh media is currently under a cruel censorship. But everywhere, whatever is the attack on Hindus or attack on the residents of Bangabandhu, I would like to humbly draw 2 points to your attention. That Bangabandhu's residence was demolished at 1:30 at the night, I mean early morning. And there were bulldozers. Who provided bulldozers? Bulldozers belong to the government. So Yunus himself is actually playing the role of arsonist and firefighter. And the main culprit behind everything is Yunus, no one else. And behind Yunus is Pakistani ISI. Because what I was trying to say, that Yunus has struggled and fought to keep the position of the managing director of Grameen Bank for years. Now he is trying to continue in power as long as possible. I can guarantee soon, very soon, Yunus will proclaim himself the supreme leader, and he will also declare a revolutionary government. This is where Bangladesh is heading to.
Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarty, is that also your assessment that the much talked about elections in February and, India expects that those elections will be free and fair and transparent and inclusive, but Awami League is already banned. But that aspect I'll come to in a moment. Do you see a pattern, sir, historically, every time that radical Islamists took over some place, they burnt down educational institutions, libraries, just so that they would erase that culture. Do you see that happen in Bangladesh right now?
Yes, I do see it happening because, as you can see, that the memory of 1971 they want to wipe out. Why do they want to wipe it out? Because the Jamaat-e-Islami was a villain of 1971. They were the proxies for Pakistan's army and killed and maimed and raped millions of people. So they have to live that down. They, of course, have a new leadership now. They also are seeking revenge on for their role in 1971 and on Awami League and Mujibur Rahman and the whole secular sort of feeling that it had generated. And because they want revenge, because their own leaders of 1971 who were declared war criminals and were convicted and executed by the Hasina regime. So they basically want to kill Hasina also. And that is why she had to flee. So this is the situation today. Of course, they are ruling the roost. Now, I won't be surprised if Professor Yunus is found later to be hand in glove with them because he wants political power. When I met him in 2007, when he floated a political party before the elections of 2008, I had asked him as if why he was doing it. He gave me an answer which left me quite astonished. He said that the country needs me. You see, he got the Nobel Peace in 2006, and by 2007, I think his ego had blossomed. And by then, he was told, of course, the Americans encouraged him and others encouraged him, that you are now the true leader of Bangladesh. So since then, he has not given up the hope of playing a political role. And his, I think, ambition came to fruition after this student revolution. He was so happy declaring that it was meticulously planned. Where else but the Clinton Foundation, in the US.
The United States.
Because they were one of his favorite, he was one of their favorites and the Democrat Party even contributed to the Democrat Party.
Oh, absolutely. Many would argue robbing Peter to pay Paul, but in this case, they were robbing poor people in Bangladesh and filling coffers of the very rich in the United States of America, according to reports in Bangladesh, if they are true. But Ambassador Chakravarty, before I bring in, General Bhatia, I want to understand from you. is blaming India without a shred of evidence in the Hadi killing or fueling this anti-India sentiment. Is it aimed at benefiting from it electorally in the elections, especially with the Awami League banned? What is the credibility of these elections, sir?
Well, number one, anti-India and blaming India sentiment has long been there. Sometimes latent, sometimes it comes to the fore and is publicly expressed. Because everything in Bangladesh, whatever goes wrong, the finger is pointed at India, that India did this, India did that, whatever it is. And there's this huge sort of narrative about India, the relationship under Hasina, India benefited more, we benefited less. This is ad nauseum, it goes on, this narrative. And hence that narrative is now being revived and aggressively pushed because the younger generation in Bangladesh who have no, perhaps little memory of 1971 is lapping it up because the Jamaat is the one. In fact, one Jamaat leader has gone on record saying that the massacre of intellectuals in 1971 perpetrated by the Pakistan army was actually done by the Indian army. I mean, how crazy can you get when these Jamaat leaders are saying these things? And of course,
So we are
Pakistan's
seeing on the streets of Bangladesh how crazy even this generation is. And it's shocking what's happening. Muhammad Arafat, why did the mob, in your view, specially target the offices of two prominent newspapers, the Daily Star and Pratham Alo, and symbols of Bengali culture, sir?
Absolutely, absolutely. Look at that. They first attacked the Bangabandhu's resident and road number 32. They attacked all the secular and pro-71 structures. They also attacked the portrait of the Begum Rokeya Sakhat Hussain, who is considered to be the iconic figure for the women liberation, and they disfigured her portrait. So this is yesterday, last night, they attacked the Chhayanaut Cultural Institute, something that represent the the Bangladeshi and Bengali culture and Bengali music and different other art forms. So you can clearly see the target of the attacks. So they want to demolish everything that represent the secular values, because these people are basically the descendant of the same group of people who collaborated with Pakistani army back in 1971 and killed 3 million people. So they believe in the same ideas. Therefore, India has also become the target of the attack.
General Bhatia, in this situation, the challenge for India would be huge. And India did not abandon friends pre-1971. What are India's options right now in this situation, sir?
No, India, India is wait and watch right now. They're honestly Bangladesh in a self-destruct mode. A few years ago, they were the fastest growing economy. They were doing very well. People were being looked after. There was, even reports of reverse immigration from India back to Bangladesh. But look at the state right now. It is total chaos. Like you said, Bangladesh is on the boil, the brink of anarchy. The government is, the Yunus government is not effective. They're waiting for the elections. The elections, what happens is not known. But the fact remains that there is a radicalization which is taking over. Earlier, in Bangladesh, you ask someone, he would say, I'm a Bengali first, I'm a Bangladeshi next, and a Muslim thereafter. But that has changed now. When you talk to people out there, when the things come up, now the radical elements are taking over Bangladesh, and that is not good for the well-being of the people of Bangladesh, not good for the economy of the Bangladesh. And they have to understand that the Bangladesh people are dependent on their energy security, on the water security in India. The energy flows from India. The 52 rivers flowing from India to Bangladesh. And we are, there is a cultural affinity between the people of Bengal on either side. So what we see today is not good either for Bangladesh or for the neighboring states of Bangladesh in India.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Before I bring in Ambassador Chakravarty, I want to quickly bring in Muhammad Arafat to understand your perspective, sir, on Nobel laureate, Professor Muhammad Yunus. There was so much expected from him. He had the support of the West. He was seen as this liberal face. He was somebody who could have turned things around in Bangladesh. But when you look at him today, Is he unable, is he unwilling, or is he complicit in what's happening on ground?
Complicit. Absolutely complicit. I don't want to say unable. He is the one, what is his source of power? Can you tell me? He doesn't have a political party. He doesn't have a mandate. He's never been elected. So he's deriving his power and the so-called authority, legal authority, out of this mob, who are the Islamist, radical Islamist mob. And he's just, allowing them to go and create mob and making the judges, forcing them to resign, capturing and seizing the media and the institutions and all that. So this is how he's been running the country. And now it has come on to some of the media houses, those who happen to be softly supporting Yunus, and it is coming on to them. Some of them used to be the critic of Awami League government, which is fine. But this kind of thing never happened during our tenure.
Okay. And Salahuddin Shoaib Chaudhary, is the situation likely to worsen? Can the army step in? What role do you see for the army and the security forces? Or will they obey whatever Muhammad Yunus says?
In my personal opinion, if our armed forces cares about the safety and security and lives of the civilian, if they really care about the sovereignty of this nation, they should do what they are expected to do. Nothing can control this current situation unless there is some military initiative.
Okay. But will that happen? Because often we see the army come in for a bit and then the army returns to the barracks, which is the job of the army, return to the barracks. But if it's a toss-up between radical Islamists running a country or the security forces maintaining calm and ensuring free and fair elections, where do you see General Zaman play a role here, General Waqaruzzaman play a role in times to come? Or are the radical elements in the army, those under the influence of Pakistan's ISI and these visits of so many Pakistan army generals, are they now calling the shots in Bangladesh?
As I say, that from General Waqaruzzaman or the army leadership, I mean, whether they are willing to uphold the image of Bangladesh armed forces or compromise everything and become a mercenary of Pakistan ISI, it depends on them. But as a civilian, I can only expect that our army does the right thing immediately without any delay.
Ambassador Chakravarty, in your view, is the situation likely to deteriorate further in Bangladesh? India, as you very rightly said, we are waiting, we are watching. But then, of course, should something happen to Indian interests, there would be consequences for Bangladesh. But what should India's role be right now?
Well, India has been exercising strategic patience, and of course that, and everything has a shelf life, including strategic patience. And I think India can only advise, because we don't want to interfere in Bangladesh. But when it comes to our security, we will certainly be very vigilant. And if Bangladesh wants to go back to those bad years where they started, and many of these young students, and they're immature, they don't know how nations deal with each other, etc. So they make all these statements about severing the Siliguri corridor, taking over the Northeast, etc. Now, these are either stupid statements or they are deliberately made to provoke India. Well, we thought it was deliberately made to provoke because they are being provided the fuel by the ISI and other and the Jamaat-e-Islam. So we have not really reacted apart from saying that, calling in the High Commissioner and saying, please provide security. Don't forget that you are obliged under international law to provide security. So we have been trying to play it down, because we don't want to unnecessarily, go overboard. I think that has been our policy. And we do not want to hurt the people of Bengal. people of Bangladesh.
Bangladesh.
So trade is going on. We are providing all the food grains, energy, etc. But if they cross that red line, I mean, I don't know what is that red line. Things will
Okay.
become very bad for Bangladesh because if they retaliate, Bangladesh has nowhere else to go. And I
Yeah.
think that they should realize.
And yet they don't. And yet they don't. So do they look at India as weak? Do they look at India as a soft state? And do they think that perhaps India does not want either China or Pakistan or other hostile forces or even the United States to play a bigger role? And that is why this strategic restraint that's being showed by India. But Salahuddin Shoaib Chaudhary, have there been any investigations whatsoever within Bangladesh? Who killed Hadi? Why was Hadi killed? Who benefits from Hadi's killing? Was he challenging Muhammad Yunus's supremacy and authority? Or is it just blame India and everything's okay?
You see, almost minutes after the attack on Hadi, the regime, Yunus regime, and its elements, they started raising fingers at Awami League and India. So as I mentioned, that Yunus is playing a dual role of the arsonist and firefighter. So whatever it is, an attempt on Hadi or the reaction that we saw last night, and possibly we are going to see tonight and tomorrow, everything is meticulously planned and by the Pakistani ISI and US deep state possibly, and being executed by its local mercenaries. So we should not expect any investigation whatsoever because it was meticulously designed. And if someone has to be investigated, it's Yunus himself because he is the arsonist and freedom and the firefighter.
Okay. Okay. General Bhatia, the last 30 seconds I have on this part of the show, I want to understand from you. Do you see this as Pakistan's ISI trying to, give more grief to India from this border? Do you think, is it just restricted to the Chicken's Neck area or all border states, whether it's Bengal, Odisha, Bengal, Assam, Tripura? Will we have trouble on multiple fronts?
Yes, Gaurav, I think Chicken Neck is a focus, but the other northeastern states have been very peaceful in the last few years. And let me also say that the terrorist violence has been subcritical. It's been negligible, absolutely, other than Manipur you know of. And Pakistan ISI will definitely try to move things out there. And not only Chicken Necks, but also in Nagaland, in Manipur, and possibly Tripura also. But they have to understand that we, as India, have the ability and the capability to make sure that we remain subject the terrorist level. We'll fight it out and we'll do well out there. There's no doubt about it. But Pakistan will try to definitely play up the Siliguri corridor and the areas, neighboring areas, including Assam.
Okay.
It will be very peaceful. It's not in their interest. And they would like
the
to...
developments in Bangladesh, we'll be tracking that very closely. I want to thank all my guests for joining me on this part of India First. Situation is very, very precarious. It's on the brink. It could go over the edge. Next 24 to 48 hours remain extremely crucial. A politics in the name of Maryada Purushottam Sri Ram in Bengal, where Trinamool Congress MLA Madan Mitra, he stirred a hornet's nest saying Lord Ram was Muslim. He mockingly asked what was Sri Ram's surname. The opposition BJP has come out all guns blazing, slamming these repeated insults to Hindu faith and to Sanatan Dharm by Trinamool Congress leaders. The TMC and other opposition parties, of course, say this is just a jumla and a manufactured controversy by the BJP.
The best way to describe Indian politics today is simple. Ram ke naam par rajniti. Some seek votes in the name of Ram. Others seek relevance by distorting Ram. And Trinamool Congress MLA Madan Mitra seems to have firmly placed himself in the second category. A video clip of the Bengal MLA has now triggered a full-blown political storm. In that video, Madan Mitra is heard claiming that Lord Ram was a Muslim, daring BJP leaders to prove that Ram was Hindu. A remark that has shocked many and angered even more.
আমি একবার ওদের সবথেকে বড় নেতাকে সুযোগ পেয়ে দিল্লিতে জিজ্ঞেস করেছিলাম আমি বলছি রাম মুসলমান ছিলেন আমি মদন মিত্র বলছি কি করবেন আপনি প্রমাণ করুন রাম হিন্দু ছিলেন, রামের টাইটেল কি ছিল? রাম হিন্দু ছিল, আমি বলছি, আমি মদন মিত্র, গোটা ভারতবর্ষের বাজারে ছড়িয়ে দিন, কি করবে বিজেপি? মারবে।
As expected, the response was swift and furious. The BJP and several Hindu organizations slammed the statement, accusing Madan Mitra of mocking Hindu faith, insulting Sanatan Dharma, and deliberately provoking religious sentiments for political attention.
उसको समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि हिंदू धर्म के विरोध में बोलने से मुसलमान उसको वोट देंगे, और मदन मित्रा हो सकता है पार्टी भी अब उनको कोई गुरुत्व नहीं देती है, तृणमूल कांग्रेस।
मदन मित्रा हो, वो टीएमसी के बाकी जो लीडर्स हों, सबके सब सनातन विरोधी हैं, हिंदू सोच के विरोधी हैं।
But Trinamool Congress is refusing to retreat. The party is brushing aside the outrage, calling the controversy a BJP jumla.
ये बीजेपी का जुमला है, इसके ऊपर हम टिप्पणी नहीं देंगे।
Other India bloc allies have also jumped in, claiming the BJP is manufacturing outrage and blowing the issue out of proportion.
कोई भी भारत का नागरिक, उसे अपना विचार व्यक्त करने की पूरी स्वतंत्रता है, ये संविधान इसका अधिकार देता है।
But beyond the political noise lies the real question. Is now Ram ke naam par rajniti a cheat code for our netas to gain eyeballs and even votes? Bureau Report, India Today.
But all these leaders who are quoting the Constitution, does the Constitution give them the right to insult the sensitivities of any religion and any particular religion? And can any of these netas ever dare to say anything against any other religion except the Sanatan Dharma or Hindus? Or do they know, should they dare to do that, there will be consequences far beyond a judicial rebuke? Anyway, let's move on to the other story. There's a new wave of images tied to Jeffrey Epstein that's reigniting scrutiny around one of the most disturbing scandals of the past decade. The images, and some of these images are deeply unsettling for many, show a range not just of documents, but also prominent figures raising renewed questions around the scandal. So as the deadline for that full disclosure approaches, pressure is mounting on the Justice Department to release every image, everything that can legally be put out in public domain. And it does threaten to send shockwaves far beyond the US borders.
Bill Gates, Woody Allen, Noam Chomsky. The who's who being signed by the Epstein list gets bigger with every expose. The House of Democrats released another 68 photos tied to Epstein's estate, part of tens of thousands of files now turning up as Congress pushes for disclosure. The images, some disturbing by any standard, include redacted passports, partial text messages, and staged scenes with quotes from Lolita inscribed on bodies. Among the snapshots are text messages suggesting arrangements for young women, fueling simmering debates over the scope of Epstein's trafficking network. The newly released photos also show Epstein in a range of social settings alongside high-profile individuals, including Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, filmmaker Woody Allen, Google co-founder Sergey Brin, philosopher Noam Chomsky, former Trump advisor Steve Bannon, and New York Times columnist David Brooks. These visuals are being released ahead of the December 19th deadline set by the Epstein Files Transparency Act. A law passed this year requiring the Justice Department to publicly release all the unclassified material tied to the case. Jeffrey Epstein died in federal custody in 2019, a controversial loss that ended the criminal case but sparked endless questions about the breadth of his notorious network and the influence of powerful people associated with him. The releases are not just another dump of material. They represent a possible turning point in public understanding of what was once hidden behind the sealed court orders. Bureau Report, India Today.
Well, that is all we have for you on this special edition of India First. Many thanks for watching. News and updates continue on India Today.